Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. And if you can hear it in my voice, happy NBA preseason basketball. The NBA is back. I'm happy. I'm excited. I was able to watch the whole first half, and then I had to go do my dad's stuff. I'm going to watch the second half after the show. I've seen the highlights of the second half. In fact, I'm not even going to lie. I'm going to watch the whole game again after the show. Like, that's how much I've missed NBA action. And we're back. And it's better than ever. I hope you are having a great Friday, no matter where you are. If you are in Florida, our thoughts and prayers are with you. If you are in South Carolina, our thoughts and prayers are with you as Hurricane Ian is now a zombie hurricane re-intensifying, heading up the east coast of the United States. But no matter where you are, hopefully you are safe, and our prayers and thoughts again are with you. Let us know if there's anything we can do. And if you want to help, ladies and gentlemen, I always say this one thing. You can go online, use your Google machine, and search out the local Red Cross of any of the affected areas, as opposed to giving to a larger base. That'll get the help there directly. I've done this for over a decade since I've been out the military, anytime that I'm able to. So if that's what you feel is in your heart of hearts, by all means, check out the local Red Cross. All right. We got Washington Wizards and Golden State Warriors basketball to talk about. Man, that's dope. And the NBA Launchpad filling out the pitch profile right now to tell the NBA why they should choose us here at Hoop Spaces to be a partner with now for this season and into the future. Because I believe that we should. And I'll even tell you part of the stuff that we have written in to the pitch for the NBA Launchpad program, because it's about community. If you remember, day one when we started, if you're here, that's what I try to tell everybody. We need to build a better basketball community where all voices can be heard in equity, and that's what we've done over last year. 200 plus shows. We've gotten people such as Jamal Crawford, Mike Scotto, a whole rack of other journalists. So many that you can't even really name because it wouldn't be fair. We've had celebrities in. We even known to have players in on their burners. So shout out to everybody who's helped build this better basketball community here on Hoop Spaces. All right, we got basketball to talk about. It's going to be a phenomenal show. We also have another surprise, right? Another surprise, and it's because of y'all. Again, a lot of you have said individually via DM, like, "Hey, if you were to have a hoodie, you would buy it." So we will be able to start selling merchandise soon. I don't want to tell you exactly the date. I'm talking to two different companies to see if we can't work out something where we can get it and get a promo code to start out with. So there's that coming up. That's that surprise. There we go. I'm ecstatic. I hope you're ecstatic. I know Golden State Warriors fans are ecstatic. I sent a DM to one of the greatest Warriors fans you can follow on Twitter. That's Nat Fluential, host of the All Nat Pod in Golden Spaces. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it said. And she's not buying into it. She is not going to buy into it yet, right? This is what I said. They are stacked. And the tweets, actually, I'll even put the tweet out there because I put it in tweet form. Moses Moody and James Wiseman would start on more than a handful of teams. That is an absolute fact, in my opinion, right? I believe Moses Moody had a full gap year in the G League. And if you saw what he's been able to do when he did have minutes, he's a phenomenal scorer. Uh, James Wiseman, 20 and 8 on 24 minutes. I understand it's preseason, but the fact that he was out there and looking healthy with zero hesitation, my word, that is scary. Clay wasn't even playing. Jordan Poole and Steph Curry went like 2 for 16, and they were never in doubt. Like, this Warriors team is absolutely stacked. And like, they have 5 other young prospects who would get serious camp and preseason minutes on other teams. Hey, it's the first day. Overreaction. We are here, and I'm going to give you mine now. My overreaction, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. James Wiseman for the most improved player and the comeback player of the year. That is what's up. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to C. Hendo, our man Chris Henderson, doing the hard work of literally grinding out and working every day, people, every day, bringing you some excellent content. This time from the Dallas Mavericks, he's got several player interviews already up there, and then also it wouldn't be a regular show if we did not talk about some science. And there is a phenomenal story in Time Magazine. Shout out Dr. Chris Matten from the NASA JPL. They might have found a lake. That is dope. Like, I mean, I can't even hit the button on the soundboard because I'm ecstatic. Also, last thing, we don't do football here. And the reason why we don't do football here happened last night. I myself, I'm a combat vet. I've had multiple injuries, including concussions, and I was minding my own business. I was not watching the game. I know it was bad because all of NBA Twitter stopped talking about NBA and started talking about Tagliavea Tua. Um, my heart's out to him as well as somebody who's had multiple concussions. It's scary, and so I do hope he is okay. But that is why I stopped. I can't watch that any longer. If I had seen that, I haven't seen the video. I've seen the picture. I've muted it. If I had seen that, for me personally, real bad. All right, I feel better getting that out because I did think that it was something. Also something that caught my eye. Also, it's kind of football related. He doesn't play anymore. Brett Favre is finally getting it. Like it's starting, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Abby Wambach of the United States Women National Team fame has quit the company that Brett Favre set up. All these players, especially notable players, they set up these charitable foundations and companies, and she was a member of that. She's left. That's probably not a good sign. All right, back to basketball. If you want to come on up, go ahead, raise your hands. We're going to go ahead and do what we do, which is recap the game. Today, 6 a.m., your tip-off time because they were over in Japan, the NBA Japan games. Your victor, the Golden State Warriors, 96-87 over those Washington Wizards. Top performers of the night, James Wiseman, 20-9 on 24 minutes. Rui Hachimura, shout out to Rui Hachimura, 13 points, 9 rebounds. He had a very difficult year last year, some mental health and some family and personal issues. He is back. I'm hoping he's healthy and he's ready to play. And I do appreciate the NBA ever expanding internationally with the NBA Japan games. They have also spread their wings out more in Africa, backing the NBL for the African League. They have a couple of camps now opened up in India. They have other camps now opening up in basically Eastern Europe. They are primed to enter the global stratosphere of professional sports, and I'm here for it. All right, we'll bring up Danny D first because to the victor goes the spoils. Your Warriors, your Aces, you are winning no matter where you turn. And even though this is preseason, we need your instant preseason overreaction for the Warriors' victory over the Wizards today. Good morning, Danny. How are you?
Tired. Tired because I got up at 2 because I watched the FIBA and I watched the second game like an idiot. But it was so close to the other guys playing. Uh, and then I had the computer screen with the FIBA with China and Australia.
Yeah.
And then I had the TV.
You had TV on US and Canada?
No. U.S. and Canada played first, so I was good. And then they played, and then the second game for FIBA and Sydney was Australia and China. And then Australia China ran right into the second half ran right into when the Warriors started playing. So I switched
Oh, so you haven't even slept.
I took a nap. I didn't watch all the women's game because
It
somehow
was a
my
blowout.
eyelids closed during the second quarter before halftime, and they never opened back up. And then
You didn't.
I didn't miss nothing. I know.
you you missed absolutely nothing. It was like literally the exact same half.
I know.
Like you take the first half, you copy it, exact same thing
I
happened.
know because I woke up and then they were showing the BYU Utah game, Utah State game. I said, "How that get on my TV? Let me change it." And then I had to go pull up the ESPN app on my TV to watch the China and Australia game on ESPN Plus because I do have Disney and all that Hulu crap all bundle. I'm wasting money, but anyway, uh, look. I finally went to sleep probably the fourth quarter of that game. As far as the Warriors go, I like look. James Wiseman don't have to do a lot for me. I just want to see a healthy player, and he looked well. He looked comfortable in his skin, relaxed. He looked healthy to me. Um, big up to the Warriors organization. They didn't play Clay, and this is what Miami should have did last night with Tua. But anyway, that's football. I'm just saying, um, uh, um, that second unit gonna be tough. And Poole play defense, y'all. So y'all can shut up. And he's a little bit bigger. You can tell he put a little 10 pounds on of weight. What's his name? I don't say the brother name wrong. Dia Vincenzo.
Dante
Oh, I
Vincenzo.
just call him Dante. Man, Dante, man, he looked good. He looked good. He could take some of the pressure off of Poole. They could play together. That second unit looked tough. With Kaminga, uh, they're gonna be dangerous, man. I'm not. Look, I said we're gonna finish in the top four. I ain't gonna be like ESPN and put us at eighth or to get 42 wins. That's some BS. But anyway, analytics is analytics. That's science, I guess, and science can be wrong. But uh, I feel good. I feel good this morning.
Science.
That's
Shout out to Danny D. Happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. We didn't do much. He got to go to work today, so he's gone. He left 5 o'clock this morning.
That
Uh,
looked like some Oreo cheesecake, so I'm still disappointed.
it was he picked it. I was like, you might want to go with the chocolate cake. And to let you know, that was last Friday. His mom was in town. She took us out to eat. That's why that picture happened. Uh,
Well. You need to tell him to get off the cheesecake. It's just
I love cheesecake. Matter of fact, I got a free slice of Cheesecake Factory. I ain't got nothing to do today. Maybe I'll ride up to the Woodlands and go get me some cheesecake. Yay!
yeah. All right. So she opens up great and then finishes with mid.
I'm
Uh,
about
I
to give me
I
a Mountain Dew to wake my ass up. I'm gonna do put some ice in it and stir it up.
no no
Yeah.
no. Like seriously, you shouldn't be drinking something that looks like the ecto deposit of Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Oh, I just swigged some Coke down, some cherry Coke down to see that help too.
We got to get you off the pop, man. Like that pop is evil.
It's good for the soul when you're down and out. It's either that or I'll go pop open that Crown and mix it with some
Uh,
Coke in the
it is
garage.
it is it is 10:17 in the morning, ladies and gentlemen,
It's
and
five o'clock somewhere, sir.
we want to welcome you on your Friday to Hoop Spaces. Do us a favor. I don't even really have the show card up here because I'm just enjoying the day. But if you could do us the favor and tweet out yourself that the show is live, you can do that by simply going to the chat box and you'll see the show card there. Quote tweet it and say, "Hop in, let's talk Warriors or whatever." Um, so I started filling out this launchpad thing, right, and this whole pitch thing, and I was trying to watch the women's game, and I want to say thank you to Team Canada because like you allowed me to do extra work, so I got work done because that was not an entertaining first quarter, so I just kind of ignored it. Um, it's far more detailed than I thought. This is pretty interesting. I think what we're going to be able to build continuing this season is going to be phenomenal. And in order to do that, I do want to know what else that you want to hear in terms of content. So if you look at the bottom right, there is a chat box. Go ahead and throw in what you might want to see for season 2 as we get ready to launch in just under a month. Samir from India is on board. He found us the other day. We're going to say good morning or good afternoon to Samir. How are you doing, Samir? Did you catch the game?
Hello, Chris. Good evening. There is evening in India right now.
What time is it?
It's about 8 p.m.
All right. Were you able to watch the Warriors and Wizards?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
A
Well,
super dope game. A starting super dope game.
all right, tell us what you think. What did you like?
I go with you that James Wiseman's performance is totally different from recently 2 years. And you know too. Over all our members know that too.
All right.
Just brilliant performance by James Wiseman. I just want to seek something from Moses Moody, but they can't do in first match.
Well, they actually he was second in minutes with 25 behind Jonathan Kuminga. I actually loved what he was able to do. He was the first guard off the bench, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold because Dante DiVincenzo has a few years of experience on him. And then when they play Clay, Jordan Poole is going to move to the bench. So Poole becomes the first guard off the bench. But I think Moses Moody can push Dante DiVincenzo for minutes. I think Moody's ready, personally. Let me get Mike in Samir, and then we're going to get some more people. We'll talk some more basketball and wish everybody a good, happy weekend. Micah, good morning. How you doing?
Man, I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
I haven't even had coffee, and I am already energized better than I've been for like the last 30 days.
Great. As long as that coffee is not pumpkin latte, you'll be all right.
Yeah, no, we don't do the pumpkin spice lattes here. If you are down below and you are sipping like those pumpkin spice lattes, just know that you are in the wrong. It's okay.
Lord help yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Man, I've just caught little bits and clips of it. I started my work day I start every day at 6:00, but so I caught little tidbits. Basically what I've learned is the rich get richer, and Kristaps still can't post somebody up that's a foot shorter than him. What else is new? So, I mean, but it's just like, golly, that team is just never gonna stop. Like, I don't know what derails that dynasty. I just don't. The way they play, the way that they build, and just how they pick up talent. Of course, if you listen to ESPN, you just think that Steph's out there carrying a bunch of bums. But if you actually watch the game, you know different. But hey, whatever. But yeah, because like they're just the way that they go off the stats is just ridiculous. And like I looked at those rankings that they had up today, and I was like, they still got Phoenix and like I think like number 1, and I'm like, dude, do y'all not realize that there's a human element to this thing? Do you not realize that the way the body language looks like out of media today, they look like they're heading for collapse. I'm just gonna say it.
It's open. It's game 1 of the preseason. I love the overreaction. Why do you say they're heading for a collapse?
Because you're going to end up with, well, number 1, now I don't know if it's just a bad series, but there was stretches in that postseason that CP looks like Father Time ain't tapping him on the shoulder. He's got him in a headlock. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. And then pretty much your other max player hates his coach, doesn't want to be there, is still upset that he wasn't granted his wish and wanted to go where he wanted to go. And it doesn't look good. It's because, to me, you can throw a bunch of talent in a blender, but if the chemistry, if the focus, if there's so much more to winning games than just talent. So that's just what I'm saying. It don't look good.
No, yeah, that is true. There's way more to winning than just having talent. If you just won purely on talent, we wouldn't even play the game. Right?
Right.
That's why we play, because we want to see the competition. All right, Micah, I'll come back to you. We got 2 more speakers. I want to make sure they get in here too. I'm gonna go ahead and mute your mic while you're working. We got CJ, the Unathletic, and EK Johnson up here on the stage, ladies and gentlemen, coming fresh off a Golden State victory over the Washington Wizards. Let me go ahead and give you some of the stats. The Warriors started Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, Steph Curry, and Jordan Poole. None of the starters got over 19 minutes. Jordan Poole led the starters with 19. Steph led the starters with scoring with 6. He had 3 boards, 2 assists. Funny number, I think this is the only time that the starting guards for the Golden State Warriors will go a combined 2 for 17. I don't think that happens at all for the remainder of the preseason or even the season. They were definitely rusty. Andrew Wiggins 1 for 8. Yeah, but the real good signs for me for the Warriors were Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and Dante DiVincenzo off the bench. You can even add Quadra Weatherspoon. I don't think he'll get any run in the season. They're deep. Like, even Jermichael Green got 16 minutes, and he did like what he's supposed to, which was grab boards and play D. I hate overreactions, but man, they look top 3 in the league. Period. Like, I can't pick but maybe 2 teams who, if healthy, would give them a serious run for the money right now. And that's an overreaction, but it's scary. We're going to move to CJ of the Unathletic Pod, another Golden State Warriors fan, and then we'll move over to EK. CJ, your thoughts on the game this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. I decided to watch the game even at work because I just decided that it was necessary for me to stay awake because I wear Grave. And so as I was watching the game, I loved what I saw from Wiseman. And I think the reason why I loved it so much for him was that, like, you could tell when he was out there, he was playing the game just because he, like, was just happy to be out there again. And then, like, you could see that he has learned a lot from just sitting and watching for the past, like, 2 years of his career. And, like, you already see, like, he already realizes that he's already doing some of the things that Looney does within the offense. And then defensively, I noticed that they're going to use him in drop coverage more so and utilize him more so as a rim protector. They're not going to force him to try to guard in space because that's not something that he's skilled at doing yet. So that was exciting to see. And it was exciting to see Kuminga and him working together on the offense. I liked what I saw there. I definitely saw the improvements in Moody. I know that in a lot of articles from the local media out here, they were saying that he did a lot of work on his defense, and it showed. And then just on the other side of things, from what I saw from Washington, if they are gonna do what they did in this game, which is basically kind of like put their nose in it on defense, because they were getting a lot of deflections early on, and I know a lot of that is because guys are rusty, and then younger guys getting used to their new roles and everything. But, like, if Washington is gonna play with that kind of energy on defense, they might be a better team this year. At least I hope they are for Bradley Bill's sake. But loved what I saw from the Warriors, and I'm not gonna overreact just because it's only game one of the preseason. But I like what I saw from my youngsters. That's for sure.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Definitely agree. I think Moses Moody is going to push Dante DiVincenzo for minutes. And I think that is a great thing because you don't get better if you get complacent. And if you're not having somebody challenge you, that's oftentimes what happens. EK, good morning. Question before you start. Have you bought a 9-volt battery yet? Yes or no?
Good morning, Chris. And unfortunately, I have not. However, it is it is on the list.
All right. I'm just checking. I'm not lying. The last 3 times you've been up, every time I get more DMs. They're worried about you and this 9-volt battery.
Oh Lord. Okay. I'm gonna have to rectify that soon. Then
Yes.
I'm gonna have to rectify. Couple things on the back, couple things that I gotta take care of. But after that, I'm gonna hop right on it. But first of all, good morning, Hoop Spaces. First off, I know this is a basketball space, but I wanted to send prayers to Tua. I don't know if you guys saw the game last night. It was pretty scary what happened. And also to anybody who's being affected by Hurricane Ian. I'm in Maryland, so we're going to be getting some residual rain from the hurricane. But anybody in those coastal areas who've been affected, my prayers go out to you and your family. But to get back to the game, I thought Golden State, man, they just look so good, man. They picked right back up where they left off. I feel like Dante DiVincenzo and Jordan Poole and Moses Moody and James Wiseman, they impressed me the most. James Wiseman, he's all the way back. Like, you can tell the way he's moving, his athleticism, how he finishes around the rim, his post defense, his rebounding ability, everything. Like, his awareness just seems to be back, and I feel like he's going to have a really, really good year. And then you got guys. The thing I love about Golden State, man, they have an offense where you can plug in dudes who are able to move off the ball. If you can shoot and if you can move without the ball, you're going to thrive in that offense. So I feel like Dante DiVincenzo is going to be amazing, along with Moses Moody, who's already been there. And also Jordan Poole's shooting wasn't the greatest last night, but I don't really care about that because it's the preseason. I was impressed with his screen and roll defense. I think his footwork has gotten better on that end, and I think we're going to see an improved defensive Jordan Poole this year. But overall, man, the Warriors, it seems like they're gonna kick back right where they left off, and I feel like that's going to be trouble for the league, especially ESPN, I think, who had them ranked going 8th in the West or something like that, which is ridiculous. So those are my thoughts on the game and current events. Thank you.
All right, yeah, no, we opened it up with thoughts and prayers because it's absolutely devastating. Personally, we responded out of Fort Hood to Katrina, to New Orleans, and I will never forget that. And I've been told by some people who live down there that I've known that it's bad. So, like, when we say thoughts and prayers, it is kind of a colloquialism at this point. But really, like, if you haven't seen it, I understand life is busy. Take the time just to reach out if you do have a friend or family member that's down there and impacted, because it's going to take some time and it's going to take a lot of help for them to get back up on their feet. And shout out to Charleston in South Carolina. I don't know if any of you have been there. That is another lowland area, specifically south and southwest of Charleston. So if you have anybody there, reach out. Like, just tell them, like, hey, if you need help, whatever you can do, it's going to be appreciated. Trust me. All right. Going back to the game, one thing I did see in the first half, again, I had to go do dad stuff in terms of dropping my son off to school. The Washington Wizards have a problem. And I think it's because Monte Morris needs to be the point guard, but they're kind of not allowing him to be the point guard. And I think this is a problem centered around the idea that Bradley Beal should be a ball dominant, heliocentric player. So I want to ask those up on stage. And if you're down below and you want to come up, raise your hand. And if you can't, you can answer this as I put a tweet out there. Do you think the Washington Wizards need to move away from a Beal-centric offense. That is what I think. And I say that knowing full well that nobody on that team can create a shot like Bradley Beal. But every time that I've seen Bradley Beal be ball dominant, I don't necessarily see a good flow in offense. That's just what I saw. Again, overreaction, first preseason game of the NBA. Anybody who wants to speak, go ahead and talk.
I'll go ahead. I definitely agree, Chris. I think that I think it's about time that if they're not going to move away from it while he is there, then at this point you might as well move Bradley Beal because you're just gonna get the same results. And I don't think adding more talent around him is gonna change that at all. I don't think that Bradley Beal is gonna sit there and want to I guess like he's not gonna acquiesce to somebody else coming in and sharing the offensive load with anyone else. But I definitely feel like they're gonna have to play more team oriented ball instead of it being dominated by Bradley Beal because they do have guys who can help with the offense. It's not as if he's the only capable scorer on that team. And I know he's probably the go-to bucket, but I mean, you still have Kyle Kuzma, who's capable of giving you, a random 25, even 30-point game on occasion, and you got other guys who can assist you. So I feel like they definitely are gonna have to move away from this Bradley Beal centric offense for sure.
Anybody else want to hop in here?
They're gonna have to do something. Bradley Beal ain't that dude to lead a team. That's what I got to say. He plays good, but I don't know what it is they need. They need they need to play somebody at point guard that could control that offense. They have talent. If they play their cards right, they could get into the playoffs. Maybe make a run. I ain't say win it. I just said make a run. At least get out the first round, but something has to change.
I love how you give them a negative wrapped in a pseudo positive. That's really good, Danny. Micah, what do you got?
Yeah, with them, it looks like they have the same issues. You don't have anybody that can really move the ball like Bradley Beal. Yes, he's more of a volume scorer prototype than somebody that can actually facilitate the offense, and they're going to have to get somebody that can do that. Because I mean, I know from my experience with Kristaps, that dude he's not getting his own shot. He has to be force fed to be effective. That's just like what I've seen from him from the time that he is in Dallas. So until they got somebody that can actually make it to where they can play team ball, I think it's just going to be more of the same.
Yeah, I think it can be. I also think that it can be better. One thing that the Wizards did, and that I do actually appreciate, is they went back in time a little bit by getting Wes Unseld Jr. to be their coach. Wes Unseld, famous Bullet, if you don't know, one of the best players in the history of the league that falls under the underrated category, in my personal opinion, specifically to his contributions in basketball. Lots of stuff after his playing career. They are trying to do what Miami did with Eric Spoelstra. They are trying to do what Cleveland is doing with J.B. Bickerstaff. They are trying to do what Phoenix did with Monty Williams. And that is have somebody who is long connected to the NBA, right? Like a history that can be tenable. You can look at it, you can see it, you can see the development, and they really kind of are trying to create this modern culture that was pretty much started by Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. And then the problem that you have, though, is that within that culture, you still have to have the right players, because you can be a great player, but if you don't fit the actual mold of what the team build is trying to be, then you kind of get into this stagnant area, which I think the Wizards have been in for a long time. Danny, EK, CJ, Micah, Samir, do you have anything else that you want to add in here for the Wizards? And if you're down below and you want to come on up, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm going to start sharing some of your comments from the chat box below.
I do have one quick thing, Chris. You think that they, I don't know, like this whole thing with Kristaps Porzingis, like I don't think it'll work, him and Bradley Beal, like at all. And I'm wondering, like, because I think they really like Gafford, and I know they lost Thomas Bryant because he went to the Lakers, but like at this point, any move they make outside of moving Bradley Beal is a lateral move, right? Like they can't really do anything else to really get better at this point, unless they just completely tear things apart and rebuild, right?
You know what? I think that was the biggest question last year, was whether the Wizards were going to rebuild because of Bradley Beal's contract. And you know, to the chagrin of people, like they're like, "Oh, he took the money." Of course he took the money. It's like beyond life-changing money. Of course he took the money. You would have took the money. But the biggest question was that the best move for the Wizards? And the honest answer is yes, because they need to make money. And so they need a star. He's their star. He gives them a feeling that they can win, a chance to win. And, you know, adding Kristaps Porzingis was supposed to be something that helped elevate Bradley Beal's game. And the problem is, if you look at Kristaps Porzingis everywhere he's gone, I don't think he's really elevated anybody else's game. So now go ahead.
I was just about to say, Chris, don't that sound funny you saying that though? Like bringing in Kristaps Porzingis was supposed to elevate Bradley. That don't just sound funny when you hear that come out your mouth.
Well, I mean, look, there are 400 plus players in the NBA, and Kristaps Porzingis is, when healthy, a top tier player. So we just haven't seen him healthy but a couple of seasons. If he happens to be healthy in Washington, he could, because they could create a dynamic inside-outside combination, because a lot of people don't realize, like, Bradley Beal can post up point guards and smaller guards. He's got a proficient post game, right? So, like, you don't necessarily need to have Kristaps Porzingis down below. You can run some double rubs and get Kristaps in the wing, and then get Bradley Beal isolated on a weak defender in the post, and then force the 5 or the 4 to come down and cover down on him, and he passes out to Kristaps, who shoots a 3. So, like, there's ways this can work. A lot of it depends upon health, unfortunately.
I mean, I hear you, and I mean, I don't disagree. I just think that Kristaps Porzingis should be embarrassed when he got dunked on by a guy who essentially hasn't really been able to play basketball for the past 3 years. Like, he played 3 games in college, 39 games in the NBA, and then came into a preseason game, and then he got dunked on. And I love Warrior fans who are technically also James Wiseman fans who are rubbing it in people's faces and telling them to apologize to James Wiseman. That's hilarious as far as overreactions go.
Yeah, it is hilarious. Shout outs down below. I see Jose, that's Paradox Killer 23, and Rolo in the building. Those are 2 to 3 hosts, 77 Spaces. The best Mavs content you can get here on the Twitter app. Make sure you shoot them a follow and get ready for a full season of 77 Spaces. Make sure you tap in. Like, this is the power of Twitter Spaces that I think in year 2 of Hoop Spaces will do an even better job on. As more people see that this is an actual viable thing to do, we'll be able to actually have more team rooms, have more great discussion and a good time without having to necessarily, you know, sit there and listen to 20, 30 minutes of yelling. That kills me. Kills my ears. Yeah, I think everybody knows that Washington has an uphill battle. but they just got to the playoffs being dragged by Russell Westbrook. And this team is better than that team. There you go.
That's not by much, though, right? Like, I mean,
it's better. We won't know until the end of the year, but right now on paper, it's better. Go ahead, Samir. What you got?
So, what would be about next game? Clippers and Maccabi Shia.
Yeah. So the next game is in Seattle.
There some news about that Kawhi and Paul will not play tomorrow.
Well, yeah, it's tomorrow for you. It's today for us. I never expected them to play this game. Maybe they would play 10 minutes, but they don't. Most stars wouldn't be playing a preseason game against Maccabi. No knock against Maccabi. They are a great team in the Israel League. They don't necessarily play their stars against that because it gets a potential of unneeded injury.
I also have some expectation from Ivica Zubac that they have their time tomorrow and play a better game.
I didn't quite get that. Say that one more time.
I also have some prospect from Ivica Zubac that they will play better tomorrow at their center.
Okay, so you're talking about the Memphis and Milwaukee game tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great game. That is tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, on NBA TV at 8 p.m. The Milwaukee Bucks will be hosting the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think we're waiting to see if Chris Middleton is going to play if he's 100% healthy. But man, like Giannis coming off of the Eurobasket run, not being successful, I would not want to be Memphis. I don't want to be any team facing Giannis, actually. I think he's on a mission, and I think he can actually take Milwaukee to the finals almost by himself. What do you think, Samir?
Yes, Giannis is a great player. They are means they have their potential of being a ESPN report 5-star. They have their potential, man. They are just unguarded. When they play, everybody just see them.
Absolutely. Paris Anderson has joined us up here. I see a couple new people who've popped in. Shout out to Saint from Nets Kingdom and Evan Townsend. If you need some Nets on your timeline, go ahead and follow Saint. You can catch him over on YouTube with Next Kingdom AJ. You can catch him here on Spaces, hosting great convos about the Brooklyn Nets, part of the Hoop Space content creator group here. Also, Evan Townsend, second year going into NBA draft analysis full time. Project Spurs is where you can catch his words. Make sure if you need to find out what Victor Wembanyama is going to be doing next year, you shoot Evan Townsend a follow.
That should be better, but the bench department of Bucks have some issue.
Well, that's just because when you are a team that's paying a player $40 million and a team that's paying a player $38 million, you tend to need some veteran presence on the bench, and you tend to get older guys and cheaper contracts. They're returning their entire bench. One player got a raise, Pat Connaughton. Everybody else back on a vet men. We'll have to see. They'll need help. Appreciate it, Samir. Let me bring Paris Anderson in here, another diehard Warriors fan, who's going to tell you, hey, it starts now. Y'all need to go ahead and be put on notice. We here to repeat. Paris, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Shout out to Samir. I couldn't really tell what sport he was talking about. I didn't know what he was talking about. But anyway, yeah, so listen, ladies and gentlemen, when you're off work and the job is over and your boss looks at you and says, hey, it's over. That's how I feel after watching this first preseason Warriors game. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely over. I don't see anybody that can beat us. And if you do, tell me so I can talk about you and make fun of you, right? Because you don't know what you're talking about. Listen, how great can this Warrior team be, man? I think if we set Curry down and Klay Thompson all year, we still be 10th seed. Am I bragging and talking ish? Absolutely, because we won the chip, and I think we're going to do it again this year. There's nothing you can say to me. I am bulletproof. All right. I mean, the Lakers might have a chance if they put an Iron Man suit on AD and if they injected some Captain American serum in Westbrook. But other than that, I'm telling y'all, man, it's the Golden State Warriors. Chris, I want your opinion on how Wiseman looked, and let me know if I should start a wager on who's going to be better this year out of Wiseman and Kaminga, because I mean that's what it's looking like. You know what I'm saying? You got Andre Iguodala coming back just because. Hey, Chris, I'm gonna be talking my ish all year, man. It's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop. Oh, yeah, and by the way, good clip, Chris, from the Sacramento, your corporate office, man.
Oh,
Thank you for
yeah.
you, man.
Yeah. Point to you again. Paris Anderson, ladies and gentlemen, single-handedly creating the conspiracy theory that I work for the Sacramento Kings. I do not. Never have. If I had, who knows what the Kings would be? Like I would love to say I do a better job, but let's be honest, like that's a hard job. It's hard work. Paris, I will give you your answer. I think James Wiseman is better than Kaminga, and I think he's going to perform better than Kaminga because he's better. Can't teach size. I had this conversation yesterday when in the group chat there was a conversation between Ben Simmons and Jordan Poole, and in reality, it comes down to two things: your personal preference on how you want to play basketball, and whether or not you believe that size is a skill. And if you tend to believe that size is a skill, then size is a skill that can't be taught. And that generally ends up being the separator when you say, hey, is player X on another level than player Y? Is that they can do what player Y does, but they're bigger, right? Like Giannis, if he was 6'4", wouldn't be, dropping 30, 11, and 5 and 1-1, right? But because he's 6'11", with the skill set of a power guard, he's dropping 30, 11, 5, 1-1. That's the argument here. And I think Wiseman has the ability to put up, stat lines that Kaminga just can't. But I think Kaminga's going to be good too. Like, full disclosure, I was pissed at that draft. I said it when that trade was made. I said it when they drafted Wiseman. These Warriors lucked up and have become the San Antonio Spurs 2.0 for real. Because if y'all remember, the Spurs were good, right? They had Tim, they had Manu, they had Tony, but they had that hiccup year after David Robinson, left. They had another hiccup year, and then they came back better. That's like what the Warriors did. And then the sad part is Steph is going to retire like at 40, still averaging like 18 points because all he has to do is shoot threes, right? Clay will be gone by then, I think. He'll be gone. But like Moses Moody, Jonathan Kaminga, James Wiseman, Patrick Baldwin, that's a starting unit. Like it's sick. It's insane. So I'm high on the Warriors. Go ahead.
Hey, Chris, don't forget about Ryan Rollins too. Like he's gonna be a dog too.
I know he's one of those 5 guys that I said would get serious camp minutes or preseason minutes. Like, but what's he gonna do in Golden State? He's
no, but I'm saying by the time Steph retires, though, like he's going to be.
Bro, he ain't gonna be on the team by the time Steph retires. You got too many people, is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I think he finds it.
Look at it like this, CJ. Klay Thompson last season literally showed up to work 5 hours late. I mean, literally, he had 2 more hours on the ship, and we still got the championship. It is scary, man. It is scary. We pick Wiseman over Ball. He has to show us something, man. And I can't wait. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Hey, Paris, I'm gonna be real with you though. I will forever stand on this, and I said this before, that it never made sense for the Warriors to go after LaMelo Ball. It always made sense for them to draft Wiseman, and it was never a mistake, regardless of the fact that he's been injured the first 2 seasons of his career, and whatever LaMelo has done in Charlotte. it was always the right decision to go with Wiseman.
Well, I mean, I'll even say this: Ryan Rollins isn't even going to probably be as good as Guy Santos. Like I'm huge on Guy. Like I wanted to draft Guy as a Sixers fan in the first round.
Me and you feel the same way about Guy, Chris. So I'm happy he's gonna be in Santa Cruz because I'm gonna get to watch him.
Yeah, you know what? You're gonna have to start covering that Santa Cruz Warriors team for us, man. Like that might be your lane. Guy Santos, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, is the Brazilian Blur 2.0. 6'8", 210, handles the ball. You know, think of him as like Sean Livingston with flair.
And he's got
like
a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, before Sean got hurt. Like shout out Sean Livingston, by the way. Like I swear, like somebody asked me what was a player that had never gotten injured would be, you know, a perennial all-star. I was like, yo, Sean Livingston without a doubt.
I agree with that.
He was Steve Smith with better handles.
Yeah.
Like Steve Smith with better handles. And like look what Steve Smith did at like an 18-year career. All right, we got Danny D. Your thoughts on any of the young players? Micah, EK's down below. But if you are down below and you want to come on up, now's the time. Raise your hand. We're heading into the second hour. Let me give a big shout out to Warren, ladies and gentlemen, a huge Brooklyn Nets fan. And right now, the longest listening member of the Hoop Spaces community because he goes all the way back to when we were on Clubhouse. So shout out to Warren. I can't wait to see when he actually gets his. By the way, he did all this while going to school and working full time and grinding. So I want to see big things from Warren after getting his MBA. So give him a round of applause, and we'll be waiting to see what you got coming up in terms of your content. Also down below, the pickup card game, and now is the perfect time to reset and say welcome to Hoop Spaces. Happy Friday. Hope you are enjoying your Friday wherever you are. And thank you for spending any amount of time with us. We are powered by audiolabs.io. And if you missed any part of the show or any show, you can head over to YouTube and you'll see the show and you can listen to it. We'll also be letting forth a podcast soon, developing another weekly podcast, and filling out the pitch form for the NBA Launchpad program. And I mean, I'm just excited. But I say that because there's somebody also in the room who inspired me to fill out this pitch program today, and that is the pickup card game. You can catch the pickup card game on YouTube and on Twitter, right? You can see the videos of the media barnstorming tour in the summer where he went to Rucker Park, where he went to Sis Run, where he did the WNBA experience at the All-Star game. He was everywhere. But he was also over at slamgoods.com. They partnered with him to bring you the pickup card game, which is phenomenal. It's a trading card game. It's inclusionary, kids, women, disabled, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and you can literally play a game in 2 minutes. You can play a longer game for 30 minutes, about 25. And, you know, through him being as good of a person that he is, he reached out to Slam and said, you really got to check out Hoop Spaces. And now we are part of the Slam Goods family. And right now, if you go to slamgoods.com, you can use the promo code HoopSpaces to save 15% on a copy of the pickup card game or anything on the website. Like, if you need a hoodie, you need to go get it because it's on sale, and you get 15% off, and it's hoodie season over at slamgoods.com. All right, there. I did my read early. Ryan would be proud of me. I'm going to give myself a round of applause. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, entering hour two. I'm going to have the Eastern Conference and Western Conference previews of every team up on the website at hoopspaces.com by Monday morning, so we can go ahead and get into it so we can say, hey, now's the time to talk. What are we expecting to see? What are we wanting for improvement for every team? And so, to that avail, today's the final day that you about the off season. If there's anything you want to get off your chest entering hour two about what your team did or didn't do, now's the time. Or if you got your hot take or want to make fun of the New York Knicks because they're the New York Knicks, we're here for that too. Hour two Hoop Spaces is your hour to tell us what is on your mind. Up on stage, we got Paris Anderson, we have Jose, CJ, Danny D, EK, Samir, and Micah. We will go to Jose as he is the newest on the stage. Good morning, Jose. How are you?
Morning, Chris. It's Friday. It's NBA preseason. We here. We live. We ready for a new season. Ready for hopefully some new champs. But how are you, Chris? Thank you for asking. By the way.
I'm ecstatic. I got to bed. I haven't been able to sleep. Full disclosure, I'm going through kind of a rough patch in terms of PTSD. So I've not really slept. I fell asleep last night. Combination of just being exhausted and actually being happy to need sleep to wake up early to get ready to watch this game. Like I hadn't realized how much I missed NBA basketball until 4:45 this morning. Right? I woke up, I wasn't even mad at my alarm. I woke up, I sat up, I said, computer, shut the up. And it did. I got up and I'm like, it's time. The NBA is back and I'm happy. How are you?
Man, I'm just glad we're turning over a new page. Hopefully, Mavs fans can stop finally talking about Game 7 of the Phoenix series because like I've been over that shit ever since we faced Golden State Warriors and pretty much got our asses handed to us. I've been over that series a long time ago, and I just hope that Mavs fans could turn the page and welcome in 2022, 2023 and get ready for this new breath of fresh air with Christian Wood and JaVale McGee and Jaden Hardy and all these other guys. But what I wanted to come up here and say first is like your question about Bradley Beal being ball dominant and maybe even heliocentric. What I had seen earlier, because just like Micah had said earlier, he works at 6 o'clock in the morning, and so do I. And when I pulled up uh, in the parking lot, I watched Steph Curry dribble up the ball, spot up for a three, and just drain it. Contested switch. I was like, "Yup, NBA is officially back." And then on the other side, I seen a clustered Wizards offense. It looked so discombobulated, and I was actually happy to see Rui Hachimura be able to score in the mid range. Some of the commentators were even saying that Rui was really efficient last year in the mid range game, and I'm still high on Rui. I really hope that he gets his game going, and I think with Bradley Beal having that heliocentric offense is just going to hinder them. I mean, you talked about how KP could go onto the 3 point line, maybe even to the to the wings outside. But KP struggled last year, which was another reason why we traded him. He was shooting 29% from 3 pointers, and he needs to be able to hit them threes. And when I was watching the game, he just wasn't able to hit his 3 point shot. He even struggled in the mid range game as well. Granted, this is preseason. This is game number one of the preseason as well. But in order for that offense to get together, I mean, it's like they need Spencer Dinwiddie back on their team. Spencer Dinwiddie is a great offensive facilitator. He could set up offense. He could create his own shot, off the dribble, on the dribble. He's the man, and they traded him to my team. So I mean, the Wizards are going to be mid. Speaking of mid, I mean the mid three in NYC, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle. Like, I wish Jalen Brunson all the best, but something that got me hyped was during media day, Luca was asked the question of, "Are you ready to see Jalen Brunson?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready." Like, ready to just play that game. It's gonna be interesting. So I'm ready to see what New York is gonna be able to do in the Eastern Conference that is stacked as well as the Western Conference. Like last season, I remember we had a kind of a bit of a discourse of like the Eastern Conference being more stacked than the Western Conference, and right now it's looking about pretty even. I don't think the Hornets are going to be anything. Lamelo had some comments about Miles Bridges that I don't want to expound on, but it was just an eventful media day, and then you have the DeMar DeRozan big old man in the three interview that dropped the other day that I had listened to. The Bulls are gonna be interesting to watch as well. I mean, they're without Lonzo Ball. The hope is that he comes back for All Star post All Star weekend. And man, Chris, this is what we've been waiting for ever since Golden State knocked out the Celtics to win their NBA championship. We've been waiting for this day. We've been waiting for opening week, and damn it, is around the corner. Prayers up to Tua. Uh, some of the reason why I've also been losing interest into the NFL, not only with the Will Smith movie covering the concussion protocols and whatnot, but the racism, the constant actions that some of these players are able to get away with, all because it's a money machine. And you know, when money is involved, you see shit like you saw last night, where you see somebody just laying there. I don't want to describe exactly how he was laying, but he was just laying there, and then carried off on the stretcher. So prayers up to Tua. I hope they don't force him to play. I hope he doesn't force himself to play anytime soon. I just hope that he gets better. But I appreciate you for bringing me up, Chris. Also, last thing I want to say, on the NBA app, if you're a Mavs fan or you just want to get some inside information about the Mavs will be streamed on the NBA app on their training camp. Luca and Jason Kidd will be mic'd up. Also, I think some post game interviews with certain Mavs players. So if you're interested in all that after the Chris's show or even during Chris's show, check out the NBA app for Mavs content. I appreciate you again, Chris, for bringing me up.
I appreciate you, man. Just like I appreciate Rolo. You two are some of the first people who came in, and as I'm filling this out, there's a question: what is your solution to the problem of avoiding the market faced by your customers, and what sets your company apart from the competition? Look, here's my answer to that, and I'm going to go back to Jose. We provide one of the only platforms that provides the NBA fan the ability to be their own voice of analysis and opinion, truly expressing their knowledge and passion for basketball while providing a unique challenge to the listener. That challenge is to share, learn, and grow their love for the game. Jose, you and Rolo are that. And I say thank you. That is what we wanted to do. You and Rolo prove it can be done. Appreciate
it. Thank you again, Chris. And may I also add, you talked about a community, and what this community, just like the NBA, is doing is that they're expounding across the world. And what Twitter Spaces has been able to do is give us the ability to have people like Samir, myself, just everybody from around the world. We've all been given the same platform to utilize to talk about basketball and even expand our knowledge of this game that we all love. I mean, some of us, this game that we love started at the park, right outside. Whether the wind is blowing, whether it's rain dripping on the court, we've all been there. We don't have to play organized basketball to know this game. We could just know the touch and feel of what a basketball is. The sound of a swish, the sound of a net also being switched on. Like, man, I'm just appreciative of what this game has been able to provide for everybody globally.
Yeah, and you know what? It is the only game that can expand globally, I believe. I want to give some shout outs down below. Malika Walker has hopped into the building. She came across the pond, so to speak, with me. Nat is in the building. She also came across the pond, so to speak, with me. And now up on stage, my brother Sam Spalding, who came across the pond with me. And also in the audience, Iman Adan, who also came across the pond. And what's the pond? The gap between Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, ladies and gentlemen. All of the people I've mentioned have created content, either here or on Clubhouse because we're passionate about sharing our opinions and our views. And I hope that over the last season and hopefully this season, all of you be able to, introduce yourselves to these great content creators. That's like what we're here for. All right, we're going to go to Micah. He's had his hand up for like 12 minutes or something. He's probably tired. Micah, go ahead. What you got?
Nah, man, I just now put my hand up like 30 seconds ago. Hey, I was just going to ask you, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty high on your team as well. And since you're bringing up younger players, how are you feeling about the DeAnthony Melton pickup?
Oh, I thought it was a phenomenal pickup to, one, move off of Danny Green, who I respect Danny Green, consummate pro. I didn't think he necessarily fit the way that they wanted him to fit, and then bring in a younger guard who can play either the one or two. So in long-term view, what this really was creating the trio, right? Like every team has a trio of guards. The Sixers didn't have a trio of guards last year. They had James Harden when they had him, and Tyrese Maxey. Prior to that, they had Ben Simmons, who didn't play, and Tyrese Maxey. Like, they didn't have a trio. Now you're going to have James Harden play 32 to 34 minutes. You're going to have Tyrese Maxey playing probably 32 to 34 minutes. And then you'll have DeAnthony Melton, who can play either one or two and guard one or two, kind of like Gary Payton II as well. He's a phenomenal defender, but I think he's a better shooter than Gary Payton II because I actually thought they were going to target GP2. The question is, can he not have these slow spells? Much like DeLon Wright, who played last year in Atlanta, who I'm a huge fan of back in his days since Toronto, they can have a phenomenal 2-week period, and then they can have a 2-week period where they don't do jack. And then you're just sitting there like, oh. It happened to him in Memphis last year too. But I think that's also just a byproduct of a lot of teams being able to figure out what he's able to do. And I think if you put him on the bench and give him 24 minutes, I think that goes away. And I like that, especially when you add in Matisse Thybulle playing defensive 2 or 3 next to him. Great compliment off the bench. Great question. Hope that answered it. EK, your hand's up. What you got?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Michael's question, I was looking at the 76ers roster the other day, and I really, really like some of the pickups you guys made. Obviously, PJ Tucker, Daniel House, getting Montrezl Harrell, all former Houston Rockets, by the way, along with DeAnthony Melton, and also keeping guys like Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, all those guys. I'm pretty sure you saw the clip of Doc sort of taking James Harden to the side and sort of coaching him up, yesterday. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think that's the reason why Doc is revered in the league. And I think that's the reason why most players speak highly of him, because he has the ability to communicate in a way that isn't necessarily combative, but is more cooperative, especially towards his top stars and his top athletes. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's a great question, and my immediate answer, you're not the first person to ask it. It's actually harder to coach superstars than any other player, and coaching a superstar requires either a really great personal relationship, open communication, right, or it requires a long-term strategy of constant positive approval, right? I think the one thing that has been absent from the majority of James Harden's career was a coach like Doc, who starts coaching him for the playoffs in the preseason. I don't think anywhere he's ever gone has James Harden ever had a coach, except maybe at Arizona State, where they're saying, hey, you're going to be the reason whether we win or lose. but they do it in a way that says, hey, if you buy in and we do this, you're going to be unstoppable, right? And you start that type of mindset so that you, as a coach, are in their corner and they know you're in the corner, and all you're doing is basically being an objective sounding board, but with a little bit positivity skewed in there so that you can kind of keep him on track. Because let's be honest, if James Harden can't perform, the Sixers won't get past the second round. We've seen this before. Nothing's changed beyond James Harden and DeAnthony Melton. I like DeAnthony Melton. He's not the reason why you go from the second round to the finals. It's going to be all on James Harden. I think Doc Rivers understands that, and that's why you see that clip.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris. And just to piggyback off of your point about James Harden never having a coach sort of look at him that way and sort of proactively coach him up, knowing where they want to go. Obviously, I'm a Houston fan, and one of the biggest issues I had during the James Harden years was the fact that Mike D'Antoni just seemed to me, he was very staunch in his approach. He was very hard-headed, for lack of a better term. The 7 seconds or less offense to me was absolutely horrible. And I think that's the reason why we ended up stalling out and sort of peaking when we did, as opposed to sort of progressing and getting better as he was there. So that's just my, little 2 cents. But yeah, I agree with everything you said, Chris.
I appreciate it. All right, we've got the pickup card game up here. He's new up here. He's had his hand up. We'll get him involved. She, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. You still got a few hours, I think, before the major rain gets to you from the remnants of Ian. So hopefully you don't get too impacted by that. But what you got for the game early this morning, and your thoughts on the current subject matter?
Yeah, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Who Spaces. Good to see the good people up here, man. Always a pleasure. I had a few thoughts. I was going to piggyback off the whole James Harden and Doc Rivers conversation because your initial question was, is there any off-season stuff we want to kind of get off our chest, right? And for me, I am a huge Monty Williams fan. I think he's one of the best guys in the NBA from a coaching standpoint, it's a good human being standpoint, right? And so I was surprised when DeAndre Ayton said that him and Monty had not talked since the playoff game, since he got benched that playoff game. Because it seems like, right, like a Doc Rivers type guy, Monty would reach out and try and figure out what's going on and maybe mend those wounds. But maybe DeAndre Ayton is just like, I don't know, it's a guy who isn't going to reach his ceiling because he just doesn't have that it factor. So that's something on my chest. I want to see, right? So here's my question: before the Robert Sarver, before the DeAndre Ayton news, right? Where did you have Phoenix in the Western Conference? Top 3, top 5, top 6, playoff team? At what point did you have them?
I had them pretty much third.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Paris? Nat?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I thought a healthy Golden State team probably, because they weren't completely healthy last year, probably win 60, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are really sleeping on the Denver Nuggets and the Clippers. And I don't see the Suns being as deep since they basically stood pat. I think Memphis falls off a little bit. I think Dallas falls off a little bit. I think Utah craters. And I think the Clippers, if they stay healthy and the Nuggets stay healthy, are going to challenge Phoenix to be right behind Golden State. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Paz, he asked you, what are your thoughts?
What's going on? Pickup card game.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to ask the question in terms of, so before the Robert Sarver news, right, and before I think this past week, where did people have Phoenix, and now where do people have Phoenix? I think the Suns are going to fall a lot in the Western Conference, just based on what I'm seeing in terms of just the noise around them, right? And so for me, I had them top 3 before the news of Robert Sarver, but over the last 2 weeks, last month or so, I don't think they're a top 6 team anymore in the West. I just think there's too much noise and too much going on in that locker room. And so yeah, that's my take, right? And so I just wonder how people feel. I guess my question is, how far do you think the Suns will fall based on what's going on? That's a simple question, right?
Yeah,
If you have them top 3 and they are top 6, or do you have them staying flat as they were beforehand, and nothing's going to change? It'll be just keep on going, Suns, right? Keep on winning games, and then get knocked out in the playoffs.
well, I think they're in line for about 55 wins, right? I don't like somebody asked about Boston too, and Boston is a completely different situation in terms of distraction. But remember, they are going to go into essentially a their own echo chamber, right? Once the season starts, yeah, they pay attention. They all do. Every player reads and sees all this stuff. But like in the building with the team, the guys themselves, like they're going to enter their own echo chamber. And this is supposedly why you pay Chris Paul 30 million at his age, is because he's supposed to be able to say, look, they don't believe in us. They are talking about us. We need to prove them wrong, right? And then you galvanize the team. You get the team to buy in on themselves, even if they don't like each other individually, because it's the us versus them mentality. If they can tap into that, that's that they get that 55 win mark. And I kind of liken it to, the Clippers back in Lob City days.
I don't know, Chris. I mean, that all sounds good to me, but that sounds like a bunch of. I don't know. I mean, they lost Jay Crowder. I just think that. I mean, Chris Paul is 1 year older, right?
They lost Jay Crowder though to put Cam Johnson in the starting lineup,
which I love too, man. That's great. But then you lose that guy off your bench who gives you a little punch. I mean, in the game, right? So it's yes. I mean, Cam Johnson gets more minutes, but I mean that's a role is also being lost. So I mean, I don't know, man. I'm out on Phoenix. That's my final take, man. I am out on Phoenix. I don't think they're a top 6 team in the West. I think they're a playing team. And then possibly Chris Paul might be traded, right? Because they're so bad that just move him someplace else. That's my final take, man.
I'll ride pickup card game. I'll ride with you too. Like, because I'll say here at their peak last season, I had them at 2. Like, and that's a compliment because Golden State Warriors was in that same conference. So have they been breaking down? Is it in shambles based on what their peak was? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Ayton not talking to, you know what I'm saying, Monty after game 7.
And he got paid too. He just got paid. Ayton just got paid. So in terms of motivation, I mean, he's chilling, man. He's gonna do his thing and collect his check and be professional. But that push to win a championship, that's gone, man.
I'm in the same boat with you. I don't know about, who knows, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Greg Popovich literally just came out, you know what I'm saying, on media there, whatever, and was like, we're not that good. We're not going to win anything. Only he can do that, right? But I bet you they're going to be around the play-in tournament as well. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to finish 13 or anything like that. I mean, they could, but at the same time, they could be in the play-in tournament. I said that to say the West is going to be good and competitive. You know what I'm saying? We got the Grizzlies, you know what I'm saying, trying to make some noise. I know they got some few hurt players, Jackson and all that. But, yeah. They could literally go down to 6 or 7 or 8, or it could be at 5, but they're not going to be 2 or anywhere there. They definitely took a hit pickup game.
All right, we've got a lot of hands up, so we're going to go ahead and move on so we can get some other voices in, including 3 people who have yet to speak. We'll go in order. So up next, we've got my man Sam Spalding on the 1s and 2s. Sam, it's good to see you, my bro. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. This is the first time I'm trying this out in the whip, so pardon if my audio is not the best that it can be. I wanted to, give a shout out to Paris and CJ, and also Pickup, and also to my sisters, Nat and Malika. I see you down there. Always love, and then to my brother Chris. But I have an emotional take, and it's something that's been bothering me for a minute, and I didn't necessarily know how to formalize it because I don't want it to be taken the necessarily wrong way. But I'm having a problem with players picking and choosing when they want to get surgery, and I don't know necessarily how to change it to where it's a thing where if the doctor detects an issue where it's like, okay, after a certain amount of time, it's mandatory for you to get surgery because Bulls. And it bothers me that Lonzo is going to miss not only training camp, but he's also going to miss the beginning of the season and who knows how long. And he's been dealing with this issue for what it feels like for the Bulls forever. But then now he's just elected to go under the knife and get scoped and get surgery, et cetera, et cetera. But they always do it. And when I say they, I mean players. And we've seen it from player to player, team to team, year to year. Right before training camp comes, then it's like, oh, well, now this player is going to get scoped. Now this player is going to get, his injury looked at and actually atoned for, et cetera, et cetera. And then it leaves them out for X amount of time at the beginning of the season, where it's like, in our minds as consumers and as fans and all of those things, we look at it like, why didn't you do that at the beginning of the summer or at the end of last season or at whatever point? And it's like, is there something that can do? And I'm asking you this, bro, Chris, is there something that can be done where a mandate can be passed down where if we see something that is a problem, that you have to address this mandatorily in 6 weeks, or you have to address this in a mandatory matter, et cetera, and you just can't wait until you feel like doing it? Because it's like, whether it's a contract year or right after a contract, et cetera, you just see players just saying, like, at the beginning when everything is starting to ramp up, oh, now this player is going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks at the beginning of the season. Like, what were you doing all summer while you was gallivanting around the world? Like, is that a conversation that we can actually have?
Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is complicated because it would have to go through collective bargaining with owners and players, right? There's also some subjective nature to this because if you guys remember, the era where players were just told to play, wrap it up, walk it off, like we're beyond that era. And we are in the era of extending every ounce of professional ability you have. And as we've entered that era, there are a lot of players who are more hands-on how they want their medical coverage because it's their body, right? And
am I talking out of the side of my neck, Chris?
I don't think you're talking out of the side of your neck. I think you're talking like a fan. Like you want to protect Lonzo Ball because you want Lonzo Ball to be playing for the Chicago Bulls, right? And in your mind, hey, you saw something wrong. Why not just shelve it and make sure we do everything right, as opposed to doing it, a soft way and then having to redo it because something didn't work right. And I think that's a fair question. There's no way you're going to solve that issue.
But yeah, like he shelved it for the last 3 months of the season, right?
Yeah, he's looking at missing an entire calendar year.
Exactly. So like you shelved it for the last 3 months. I'm pretty sure whenever you shelved it, somebody looked at it. You chose not to have anything done, and now you're looking at a year, but you've still been like, it sounds bad when I say it out loud. You've still been collecting the check and you've been collecting everything that you've been afforded. But like, now that it's a situation to deal with it, now the team has to deal with you being gone for a collective year when you could have dealt with it back then. And now it's no longer a conversation. And again, like, yes, I'm talking about it because it is happening to my Bulls, but I'm saying, like, fans of all teams see this happen to players that they need to be like competitive year after year after year after year. And it's getting egregious when these contracts are showing what they're showing. And it's like, dude, like, what else are you doing?
Well, if you look at it that way, it's an interesting conundrum because remember the time period where fans are starting to complain about load management. Well, if you load managed, maybe the injury isn't as severe or there's no injury. Like I said, the short answer is yeah, they can mandate something. It would have to go through the collective bargaining process. And the long answer, the truth is, it's probably not going to happen because it's too complicated. Let me get Amon's thoughts on here. Then we're going to move over to Nat. We've got Berg. We got JFK, Danny D, CJ, Nikkei. Man, everybody's hands is up. It's a great morning, and I want to thank you for making Hoop Spaces a part of your morning, no matter where you are, or if it's in the evening or the afternoon. We are 30 minutes past the 11 o'clock hour here on Eastern Standard Time, and I want to thank everybody who's made it. Remember, if you did miss anything and you want to hop in on the replay, it'll be here live on the timeline on Twitter. It'll also be on YouTube, powered by audiolabs.io, and when the season opens up in podcast form. Appreciate it. Amon, I know you are excited as I am, and I also know that there's some issues in terms of injury maintenance and management in Toronto, too, that you may be worried about with, like, Fred VanVleet, right? Who kind of closed out the end of the season not 100% healthy. And I thought that maybe if Toronto had limited some of his league-leading minutes per game, that perhaps he would have been more fresh. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for having me up. With Fred, yeah. I mean, when there are like 6 players total that a team wants to play, and at one time every single one of them will be injured, you're gonna lead the league in minutes. But just to sort of, I raised my hand in the midst of this conversation. Yes, technically, I guess it can be mandated, but it will never be mandated, because I think that sometimes we lose, and like I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I think that sometimes we lose the fact that these players are human, and this is their job. This isn't their life. And as invested as we are in the team, of course, I'm not saying that they're not invested in this team as well, but their lives after basketball also matters. And I don't think we can force surgery on any player. The vast majority of players that do wait until the summer, until the end of summer to get surgery, have been trying rehab. And it's quite often when the rehab fails that they elect to go get surgery. Also, we can't dictate when they do it. Like, their off time is their off time. And I think that just looking at this outside of like our investment in our favorite basketball team, thinking about how an employer can force someone in their off time to go get surgery. Like, surgery is something that is serious. Like, you're being put under, you're being cut open. Like, it's just such a huge ask. And also, if you look at the Kawhi Leonard situation, and I always kind of refer back to this because obviously as a Raptor fan, God is Kawhi Leonard, but he did not trust the Spurs medical staff. And at that time, there was lots of reason to not trust the Spurs medical staff. I mean, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, like, there were some serious injuries that went underreported at that time. And he went to go get his second opinion. And lots of players have kind of discussed this. I remember after the Kawhi thing, doing this panel with Basketball News, and they had David West, and they had we had some like other NBA players. I do remember David West being pretty vocal about this, and it's just like, you have to remember that the medical staff works for the team. Their goal is the team, and they prioritize the team, and they don't prioritize the player, who is a human being who is putting their body at risk, and not just for the short term, but for the long term as well. So we can't ask players when to get surgery. We can't ask them to get surgery. We can't dictate how long their rest is going to be, when they should be ready to play, whether or not they can load manage. And like, I think, yeah, I get looking at it and being like, you're paid X amount of dollars to do this, so like, do it. But like, they're human beings at the end of the day, and I don't think we want any of our employers to have that kind of control on our bodies, not just on the work that we do, but on our literal bodies. I just feel like it's too invasive, and it will never get done because the CBA is a collective bargaining agreement, right? Like, that's what it stands for. And so there's going to be, the players have just as much as a say in this as owners. And although owners, I'm sure, would love to be able to dictate what players do with their bodies, we should never, ever, ever want the 30 richest people in the world to be able to dictate what 500 black men have to do with their bodies. Like, that's just like, the optics of that alone is something that the NBA will never do. But beyond that, it's something that the players will never agree to, because at 40 years old, when they retire from the NBA, and that's an old ass NBA player, right? Like, you got to be a superstar to retire at 40. So these guys who are retiring in their 30s, having knee problems for life because they rushed so that the Chicago Bulls could have 3 extra wins is in 2022 is just not something that I think that really like is something that we want or makes sense. And I think we should like trust these players and their bodies and like what they do, like give them complete control because it's their body. It's body autonomy over everything, over the wins on your team. As someone who, I mean, the Raptors kind of created load management, right? Like the term load management started with what the Raptors are doing with Kawhi Leonard. And I do think that that was a really important step. And it's something that they continued with Kyle Lowry. And like Fred VanVleet wants to play 100 minutes a night and the Raptors need him to play 100 minutes a night. I personally don't think that should happen. We saw what happened with bringing a guy back like Kevin Durant. I think it's really, really important for us to remember that these medical staffs work for the team. They don't work for the player. They're not prioritizing the player. So it's only the player that has to prioritize the player. And they should be able to decide when they get surgery, when they're comfortable getting surgery. If they don't want to miss a wedding in the summer and that's why they elected to get surgery late, okay. If they elected to get surgery late because they were rehabbing and rehab failed and they realized they needed something stronger, which I think is what happened with Pascal Siakam in the shoulder surgery. He ended up getting it pretty late in the summer, which made him miss most of last season, the beginning of last season. That shit happens, and I think we should just trust them.
Now, can I offer a respectful rebuttal?
Of course.
Because like in like our jobs and our systems and our things, like when it comes down to surgeries that we require, surgeries that we need when we're on the job, like even when it comes down to like women giving birth, like they give you a certain amount of time and then they expect you back. So in that conversation, it's like the realistic time of, okay, this is happening. Like, yes, in a perfect world, a wife could be able to say, or a woman can be able to say that, yeah, I'll take a year off, 2 years off from my job and come back. But there are women that are put under pressure that's like, you know what? Like, okay, well, my release is for this amount of time, whether it's 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. And then also when, something happens, whether it's on the job, et cetera, when you report to your job and they ask you like, okay, well, you had this surgery, the expectancy of time is this, then we expect you back at work at this. And if something extenuating happens outside of that, then we expect you back at work. So like, I don't think that it's beyond the realm of appeal, because when we're looking at everything that we do on a daily basis, everything that we're held and the standard and the conduct that we're held to, then like, how do we say like, okay, well, just because they're in the NBA, they're in the NFL, they're in these type of things, like, oh, you can do it when you want, how you want, where you want, the way that you want, et cetera, et cetera. Because like, you can go get your second opinions, you can go get your third opinions. I'm not saying that you don't have to get your opinions and you don't have to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm just saying like,
but in reality, Sam, any business entity that has employees that adhere to a collective bargaining agreement, right, will have the exact same issue that you are talking about. So if you're
unions are great, guys.
Yeah, if you are part of a union, like that's why you have a union. The issue that you are doing is you're equating a general job that's non-unionized, where the leverage is purely on the employer, right? Whereas if you were in a union and the employer did that to a woman, the woman would go to the union and say, hey, I understand there's a paternity leave issue. Here's what I'm claiming. Here's my doctor stuff. Help me out. They go to the employer. And then that's usually how these instances are kind of addressed, and then they work out a plan.
Can I just add that there is a stark difference between, like, as a Canadian, I think maternity leave here is 1.5 years. So, like, I don't completely know how it works in America. But, like, there is a difference between a job that physically, like, is not demanding in a way that's just, like, in any type of job. But, like, these players have serious life-altering injuries, and you're forcing them to get surgeries that could also be life-altering, and whether it's like removing your meniscus or whatever like the rules are for like healing faster so that you can come back sooner, like whatever Dwayne Wade did in college, like all these different things, like that has lifelong impacts and lifelong effects as well that I just don't think is really comparable to most other jobs. And to Chris's point, yes, they have a union, and there's a reason the union exists. And it's strong and it's powerful, and rightfully so. Their bosses shouldn't be able to dictate the way that they operate and the way that they move just for a few additional wins, because that's the rest of that player's life.
And the average maternity leave in the United States of America is only 10 weeks.
That's disgusting. We should be changing that as opposed to changing what the NBA does.
I agree. Part of the else, and that's what I was going to say. I was saying, like, part of the issue is you're taking like a standard non-unionized job that the majority of us in America understand as the job says, you know, come here, right? Like, you need to work. They don't have that. Like, if you have a union, you have the protections granted via the collective bargaining agreement, and then it's very similar to like filing a civil action, and they actually fight that for you. It offers you a level of protection
Chris,
against malfeasance.
Well, the last thing that I'll say is this: you still got a whole lot of hands raised, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. So I see Nat, I see CJ, I see JF,
Nat ready to go too. I can see it.
Let them rock, because I don't want to monopolize this thing.
It's cool. And by the way, if you had malfeasance on your Hoop Spaces non-existing bingo card, you get a point. That bingo card, I'm going to figure out how to do this to make this actually work. And we will be playing Hoop Spaces bingo every morning as well. My friend Nat came across the pond from Clubhouse. She started a Celtics room. And one thing we learned really quickly about Celtics Twitter is y'all are weird. Like, y'all say y'all Celtics fans and you want to talk Celtics, but like you never show up to talk Celtics. Like, you show up just to yell at each other and then leave because you yell at each other. So like next time, come in and actually like talk Celtics. Y'all did great in the playoffs, but not during the season. Also, host of So You Think You're a GM. If you think you know better than your team's GM, this is the show for you. We will be bringing this back as we get closer to the trade deadline. But upcoming at the beginning of the season, Benchwarmers, your debate show. Like, First Take is cool. Undisputed is whatever. But debate shows have always been good. Going all the way back to the 60s and 70s, there's been debate programming within sports. And nobody is going to do it better than that, because she's going to put you in your place in a way that's both uplifting and downgrading. Like, it's the perfect match for Benchwarmers. Have a take, don't suck. That's the only rule that you need to follow, as well as being cordial and respectful. Nat, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Chris. I am doing well. Oh my God, so much was said since I raised my hand. I wanted to touch on the Phoenix Suns question. I think Pickup was talking about. I do think that they take a step back. I do like Cameron Johnson though, starting at the 4. I think that makes them better. You know, I'm actually very fond of his game. I want to see how that bench plays out, and then, you know, the same thing. You know, Chris Paul's a year older. You know, we're gonna keep getting older here and say, okay, we still got a window, and then he keeps getting older, and he keeps getting older, and then what? You know, sometimes I think that a lot of fans live in the past, so we're still living in 2020, you know, or 2021, you know, whenever they were in the finals, and we're like, well, cool, if they did it back then it's the same. They can do it 2 years later, you know, and that I never really agree with. I think that too many teams have gotten a lot better, especially in the West. I am high on Denver. I think that they're going to be better than what people give them credit for. I think if you stop living in 2015, you know, and you come up here to 2022, you'll realize that roster, as long as, you know, a couple players come back healthy and we know the players we're talking about, that roster can compete with anybody, you know, and when you have a 2-time MVP in the Joker, I mean, there's not much you can say. So I'm high on Denver and I'm high on the Clippers, you know. 1, 2, and 3 in that order is for me Denver, Clippers, and then Golden State in the conference. But I just think that, even with the Lakers, when people come up talking about the Lakers, and I'm like, how did they get better? Or did the West surpass them and their skill sets? Are they still a contending team, or is the West so much better that we can't say that anymore? And that's what I actually feel. So, I just kind of think we got to stop living in the past and catch up to what rosters look like now. I don't care if the Clippers never won this or never won that. What does that mean to me when, they have this roster that they have today? We got to be in the present today. They have a great roster. I think the best roster in the league, to be honest with you. They're deep. They thought about this roster. You can tell this was orchestrated perfectly. Excuse me. And they covered up for, load management, Kawhi taking time off Paul George. They got guys that can come in and also score 18 to 20, very smart with their roster. So these are the teams I'm looking at in the West. I'm also going to support my love for the Pelicans. I love what they've done. I think CJ is going to have a great season, getting a training camp, with this team because he was traded midseason. Now he gets a training camp. Zion looks great. We got to stop lying, saying this man's out of shape and this man's this. He looks great, so I am very high on a few teams, and I just think that with other teams, their time has passed, and it's okay to say that, and let's look forward to the new. Thanks,
I
Chris.
love it. The West is going to be Slobberknocker, as my grandmother would say. Berg, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
All right, cool, man. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody having a good Friday. I just wanted to just touch on a few things, get it out the way. My Pistons. We had a crazy off season. Our GM is just moving his hands, picking up the phone left and right. We got a few players from the Knicks. I'm not sure what's going to happen to Kemba Walker. But we'll see. I like the fit of Nerlens Noel with our big guys. It gives our rookie Jalen Duran some more reps with a few guys. Hopefully, we keep him on our squad and not send him to the G League. I personally think he's ready. I've seen him work in a few videos. I've seen him work with Cade. I've seen him work with Jaden Ivey. And the fluidity they have already, the chemistry they're building with each other. If anybody's been paying attention to Detroit Pistons lately, they've been building something over there that's really special. Jalen Rose been taking them around. Of course, Sada Baby as well has been taking them around, letting them grow with each other, spending birthdays, celebration with Cade, with each other. Just everything is about each other over there. So I love what Troy Weaver is doing with the Pistons. This is really great. He's had a crazy 3 years so far with his draft picks and the placement. In these trades with Utah, I feel like everybody's helping Utah nowadays. But the trade with Utah with Bojan Bojanovic, if I'm saying that right, I think that's going to help us a lot. I'm not sure if he stays on the team the full year. We know how trade deadlines can get. And I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that we don't end up top three. I really want us to compete. Our division has got really clouded. Um, Cleveland has moved more steps ahead of us as far as their pickup with Donovan Mitchell, so that's kind of scary. I want to see what Indiana Pacers do. Are they going to keep Miles Turner and Buddy Hield? Is that still on the table for another team? Also with DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix, the sending that offer sheet in the summertime from the Pacers, and him not wanting to be in Indiana. I mean, in Phoenix, is that something that might resurface itself? So it's a lot of things that's going on in the division that I know we're probably like a 2 year window to start competing. So I just like the development of what we're doing over here, and that's pretty much it. And it's about the game from earlier, the Japan game. I really like what I see from Patrick Baldwin Jr. He was on my top 20 big board during the draft. He was ranked 15th at the start, but he dropped. I believe he got picked up in the second round. But you know how the Warriors are when they pick up players. Just here and there when they really, really look at guys, they bring them in. And once you actually see them in the rotations and how they move those players around and how they develop, you see why the Warriors took chances on those guys late in the rounds. So I really, really like Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Ryan Rollins from Toledo. But that's it. Appreciate you for having me up.
Yeah, absolutely. My son's cat escaped his confines and just knocked over my son's tablet. It's awesome. And I agree. I was huge on Patrick Baldwin Jr. He's a 6'9" shooting guard, about to be a 6'9" scoring power forward, I think, for the Warriors. It's insane how deep they are. It's insane. Up next, go ahead. What you got?
No, it's not fair, Chris. You're right. It's insane. It's ridiculous.
It is. Like they've got players that aren't going to get any run. Like even at the Santa Cruz Warriors, and they need minutes. Up next, somebody who needs a power forward to go next to Bam. That's JFK. JF, good morning.
Damn, Chris. Good morning, Chris. The number is 4 today. Looking at the 4s all day. That trade just happened, so I'm trying to see what you're talking about with Derek Favors, or if we're gonna stick with Jay Crowder. Trying to pick him up, but we need to get somebody because we got to have a veteran presence. I know Ben just talked about him switching over into a veteran role, but we need more of a veteran presence just because of how weak our 4 position is. I know Blake Griffin just got picked up by the Celtics, but that's not really a person that I would have wanted. But I just want to say this, Chris, and I didn't get to say it from before, but shouts out to Eric Spoelstra having another baby with Nikki. That's a great relationship. And everybody should take notice on how that relationship started because we should not be in people's business. And that's all I wanted to say about that. But moving forward, I think there's a couple of guys I'm looking at from the Sioux Falls, like Darius Day. He came out in the media today talking about how he's not projecting himself to be, any type of LeBron James, but more of a PJ Tucker, Draymond Green style, which I can, really appreciate because that's going to be what the 4th position that we need. Somebody who can definitely facilitate, ball handle, and do something with it if he does get an open shot. Because if you look at it, between the 4, we have the 5 and the 3. That's basically our majority ball handlers with Jimmy and Bam. So we need to be able to, have somebody to complement them at that sense. I kind of like Darius Day out of LSU. He's 6'7", about 240 pounds. We also got Nikola Jovic, which people were saying during the summer league, his on-ball defense presence was kind of like, scary because a lot of guards that he was playing against, if he does decide to play that guard position, they were kind of passing up the shots to, somebody else because of his length and his size. So that looks like it's promising if he does end up playing maybe a 3 or 2 role. I'm not sure where they're going to put him at, but I do see a couple of guys developing from the Sioux Falls to go ahead and develop like how Omer Yurtseven developed and how, Max Strus developed. Max Strus and Duncan shot for 41 and 37% from the 3-point line, so I expect that to be a lot better. But my question is, I know we didn't pick up anybody serious in the offseason like that. I know we're still probably waiting, and we're playing the waiting game right now. But do you think Jimmy Butler jumps another level this season?
Only if he can consistently hit 3-pointers. And I like Darius Days, but he's 6'5", bro. He's not.
Then they got his height wrong then.
Yeah, well, no, he's 6'7" in shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's he played the small ball 4. He's in LSU. There was a guy who played for Mississippi State. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Robert Woodard II, 3 years ago. He was drafted by Sacramento in the 2nd round. That's who Darius Days is, and I don't know if he's going to be athletic enough to really make that leap. One scout told me, because he's on a list of what we call multi. So one guy said he would be maybe the lesser known, maybe not as good version of Ron Harper Jr.
I mean, okay, I'll take that because it's not that big expectations I'm having from him. I'm just saying I kind of like what they're talking about and how they're talking about him during these preseason practices. We also have Hayward Highsmith. I kind of like his development, but I'm still not too high on his defense. But I think if he stays in the system, like again, I think that's what we are, the system team. And I think a lot of these guys shine off of being in the system. So that's why I'm not too low. I'm not getting anybody because I know within the system we'll be able to develop somebody that can produce. I mean, look where Max Strus came out. He came out of nowhere and he shot 41% from the three. So I like him as a big guard, but it's still that depleted forward with that veteran presence. I kind of like a Derek Favors or Jay Crowder to come in and help us with that because, that is what we kind of missed last year going into the playoffs, especially with all the injuries and stuff. And it kind of, I kind of think it hurt us in the long run just because a lot of our players have to like overcompensate for the missing players we had. And I kind of like Tyler Hero coming out and saying what he's saying. He's saying he doesn't care about being traded. He wants to stay with Miami and get his money here. And he's saying he believes he's a lot better than a lot of players that have gotten money so far. So I hope that he comes out and proves it this year. And I'm expecting him to come out and prove it this year as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people kind of took the bubble hero and ran with it, like not giving him deference as being a young kid. I think he is a better player than a lot of people give him credit for. And the last thing about Darius Days, the PJ Tucker comp is probably going to be the most talked about or compared about comp because of the body size. The one thing PJ probably does better is play in space. Darius doesn't. He does have a 7-foot wingspan, though. He is phenomenally gifted athlete. We have Malika Walker joining us up here. Micah, Danny D, CJ, and EK all have their hands up. We're going to clear out the four hands to give Malika some time by herself, then we'll hop back up to Amon and Don. I wanted to give a shout out to Sandy, who I saw momentarily. Also in the building, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Rodriguez, host of the Dime NBA on Ball is Life. You got to catch him out doing his thing. The dude is a phenomenal producer and creator of content. He actually won a Webby for producing. So make sure you check him out over now at the Volume Sports. So make sure you shoot him a follow. Shout out to Josh Rodriguez. Appreciate you, Josh. We'll go to CJ, Danny, EK, and Micah. Clear them out, reset the room, and have a good convo with Malika and Amon if she's available. CJ, what do you got your hand up for? All right, man. We appreciate it because we definitely need at least one horn per show. Once CJ gets back, we will merciful. I can't say mercy. Can somebody help me with that word? Because I always struggle with that one. Mercy. Yeah, I can't even say enough of it for y'all to say it.
Mercilessly.
Thank you. Gosh, who was that linebacker for the Houston Texans? Merciless. I can say merciless, but I can't say the other word for whatever reason. We'll go to you, EK, since you hopped in here to help me out. We'll go you, then Danny, then Micah, and maybe CJ if he's lucky.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on the injury conversation. I think it's an extremely important conversation to have because of the times that we're in. I do agree with Adon totally that there's no way that a team can just outright mandate players to do certain things with their bodies. However, I do feel because the NBA is based on athletic performance and skill, obviously, you have to be a certain sort of body type to be effective, right? So I feel like there needs to be some guidance put out there regarding not only the way injuries should be handled in-house, as well as from a collective bargaining agreement perspective, but also just the way, sort of overall body health should be handled in the league. I think we're getting better with that with the use of trainers and nutritionists and things of that nature, all the resources that these guys have at their disposal. And this is just to piggyback off the Lonzo Ball topic, because I was reading an article and it was saying that Lonzo Ball said that his rehab was going well at first, but then he quickly realized, okay, I'm not where I need to be, so I need to get my surgery. In instances like that, I feel like it's okay for the player to sort of dictate their own timeline because nobody knows their body better than them. And also, they're not blatantly just saying, I'm not going to get surgery because I don't want to get surgery because I'd rather sit at home and get paid than play. He was actively trying to get back on the court. And, unfortunately for him, the rehab didn't work out to the point where he felt comfortable enough to be able to play. Right. But I feel like, just in closing, we definitely shouldn't be mandating what the athlete should be doing, but I think there should be cooperative guidance materials drafted talking about how these injuries and just overall body health should be sort of approached by each individual team.
I tell you, I find it very, very funny how what we're talking about is mirroring something that is actively going on in the common discourse in society right now in terms of what Iman said, like body autonomy over everything. Like, again, I understand it, the complaint, but they're the players. And I say this from my personal experience of being injured while serving in the military. I rushed back from every injury, right? I'm about to be 40. I have arthritis in my neck, my knee, my back, and both my feet. Like when we talk about life-altering injuries, what we're saying is it alters your quality of life on daily living, right? Go look at how Dirk Nowitzki walks right now, right? Go Google Dirk Nowitzki and see how he was walking when the Mavs were honoring him. And then go look about how he was walking 15, 20 years ago. That's what we're talking about when Iman says body autonomy over everything. Because had somebody been in the corner of Dirk Nowitzki and say, hey, you probably might want to think about cutting back on some games and some minutes so that when you're 40, you're walking and playing with your kids, right? That doesn't happen to the average person at the average job, right? It happens on high impact jobs like construction, high impact jobs such as military, high impact jobs such as police. It can happen in some low impact jobs such as trucking, but that's more of a lifestyle issue as well as like compartmentalization. But like, make no mistake, the NBA is the most athletic league with the greatest athletes on the planet 9 out of 10 times. So the torque and the pressure they're putting on their body is greater than you playing pickup. It's greater than you rolling your ankle, cutting the grass. And it's the only way that they make a living. They don't get the fame, the notoriety, and the endorsements and all that stuff without playing. And in this league, when you're done playing, you're forgotten rather quickly. We have a very fast table turnaround time as fans. And then we have to wait for a period of time to bring these people back in a nostalgic way, right? So maybe the issue isn't necessarily with players and the injuries. Maybe it's the issue with the fans and the acceptance of the players wanting to make sure that they have control over their future. Like, if we frame it that way, maybe we start viewing it a little bit differently. Not saying I agree or disagree, EK, just giving a different point of view. Danny, we'll go to you next, and Micah.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh, Lord, I've been here for an hour. Anyway, what I was getting ready to say was play with you. I'm interested in seeing what the Clippers look like tonight. I've been hearing all about how deep they are and all of this kind of stuff. I want to see how they play together tonight. That's one. Two, I know we talked about it. I'm interested in Phoenix. I guess they've taken the mindset, some of the players, that, hey, I'm just gonna do my 8 hours and not talk and leave. That's what it sounds like to me. But that'll be an interesting soap opera. Injury wise, I know we talk about people in their injuries. You gotta listen to your body, and the only person that understands their body is the person who's injured. If somebody would have been in, I hate to go back to football, a Tua's corner, and tap him on the shoulder and tell them fools, "Nah, I ain't playing." I mean, these same fools put his butt on a plane to fly back to Miami. Didn't he just have a concussion? Isn't that supposed to be a pressurized
Well,
the
they
aircraft?
said that was a back injury, not a concussion.
I got you a back injury. He looked like he was having a mini seizure, a small, slight stroke, where his hands look in there. And I didn't even watch the game, but my husband did. My husband's like, he said, "Nah, somebody need me some repercussions on this too, because you are a product, you are a prop. Um, People are going. You're a contract worker when you play these sports, and you have to protect yourself because nobody else is going to protect you but you." Um, and I get what Lonzo. A lot of people don't want to have surgery. I talk shit. Excuse me. I talk mess about Alyssa Thomas and her broke shoulders, but she has made a decision what's best for her, not to go through the rehab and the surgeries. And I get that. And it works for her. It might not be the prettiest offensive game for her, but she made a decision not to get her shoulders fixed. She ripped both of her Librams in her shoulders. But it is what it is at the end of the day.
Not Libram. Libram is something.
Librams, whatever. You know what the hell I'm saying. Anyway, thank you, Chris. You're right. I knew I was gonna mess that word up. But anyway, at the end of the day, you have to let the players decide what's best for them physically, and understand that they're providing you entertainment at the risk of not being able to walk straight at 35. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. And losing time with their children, with their kids. On Christmas Day, some of these players will be playing, i.e. NFL, who never plays on Christmas, but they decide, hey, we want to play on Christmas too. Miss Thanksgiving, miss Mother's Day, hey, miss their kid's birthday, possibly. Just to provide you entertainment, and then turn right around 2 months, 3 months later and start the season all over again, and travel, sickness, anything, COVID, hello. Some people going to be a long hauler for a while. But things of that nature. So I think just be patient. Let players decide. Let players manage their bodies so they can have a long career like LeBron. Robert Parrish played into to 40. Let them deal with their bodies, because you can't trust everybody to look out for you. You got to look out for yourself. Anyway, I think that's all I got.
I got you. TJ wants at the end of the day to be on the bingo card. I don't know, because it's so commonplace for people to say at the end of the day, and there are two main culprits.
Wait a minute, did I say it a lot today? I can't remember.
There are two main culprits, and Danny is one of them. So shout out to Danny, and the other one is our man, aka C Hendo, Chris Henderson. It is a Texas colloquialism, okay? And you don't have to be born there. You just have to live there, and you end up seeping it up. They all say it. It doesn't matter if you're in Dallas. It doesn't matter if you're in San Antonio or El Paso or Houston. I've lived in all four cities. They all say it at the end of the day. Just, write it out. It's okay. Micah, your thoughts. Go ahead.
I'll give him the horn.
No, I just made it. Hey, let me make it, Chris.
Go ahead, Micah.
Yeah, man, I was just gonna say one comment as far as, look, if a team tries to mandate to a player how they deal with their body, well, guess what? There's 29 other teams that will probably go along with their demands. So, ask San Antonio how that works out. And by the way, they were the originators of load management. Been doing it since early 2000s.
The surprising answer is load management's been around for a while, even before San Antonio. San Antonio made a regular occurrence. That's the issue. We're giving San Antonio credit that they don't deserve. They just kind of brought it back and made it like an acceptable practice. All right, I see a peace sign, so the pickup card game might have to bounce out, so we hope that he has an amazing weekend. Any last words if you're still there?
Hey, always love Chris. Big shout out to Team USA, the women's team going to the championship game against China. So looking forward to watching that game. But always love Chris. Have a good weekend, everyone. Be safe out there. Peace.
All right, be safe, be good. Stay away from the lightning. Lightning's bad. Malika Walker, host of The Rewind, up here and getting ready to give her thoughts on the NBA as we open up preseason with 6 a.m. action this morning. The Washington Wizards fall to the defending champions, the Golden State Warriors. Malika, did you catch any of the game? I know you said you were going to record it.
No, I recorded it. I'll be watching it this afternoon while I'm working. It'll be playing, and I'm looking forward to tonight seeing the Clippers. Just excited to have the NBA back to see, to see the calendar, their games. Yeah, they're preseason right now, but their games, through the weekend. So, excited to see those. But I'm excited for the season to see a few teams. The West Coast, you have Denver that are fully loaded now. So I'm excited to see them and see what they do when you have Jokic, who actually has some help. Um, I'm excited for the Clippers because Kawhi looks really good and Paul George. So I'm looking forward to seeing that over. It's like they have too many bodies there because somebody ain't getting some minutes. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that's managed and how they do. The Lakers, I mean, they have a lot of games, but I'll be on League Pass. Like watching the Lakers, I think if Anthony Davis could stay healthy, then they should be pretty decent. Um, and I think that they're willing to, put Russell Westbrook on the bench, so we won't have to, but we'll see what happens with the Lakers. But I'm not as curious as other people. Like I'm looking at the Clippers, the Nuggets. I'm looking at, on the East Coast, Detroit, because they made some good moves. Looking at Memphis. I'm curious if they're able to continue to improve when you have an improving West. With the Pelicans, they're going to be formidable. I'm curious about James Harden. Like he had an off season where he was able to work out, get in some runs, and really work out and focus on his body. So I'm curious about the Sixers next season. Of course, my team. I'm curious about the big three and how they're going to play together. Like Katie, Kyrie, Ben Simmons. I'm curious about Day'Ron Sharp at center. Like backing up Clax. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. I mean, we have two technical centers on the roster. I think on some plays they'll probably put Ben at the 5, for just for some plays, not for like a whole game or a very long time. I think that we're thin at center. Some others in that world don't think so. I do, but I'm excited to see them play this season. I've seen some video where they look like they're playing with some joy. So we'll see how they look when the ball, tips off. I'm actually going to a game this season. I'm going to see them play the Bucks. I'm going to a few, but that's one. That's a ticket I have, and I'm going to see them in Charlotte. Basically obliterate Charlotte, but I'll be there because I promised Brandon I'll come down here and watch a game. So I'm looking forward to this season, and I can't wait to see a bunch of these teams. Detroit will probably be one of my league pass teams because it'll be interesting seeing Cade with some help around him. And those are the teams I'm looking forward to for the most part. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, cool. I have a question for you as someone who's watched plenty of basketball. Do you see anything cyclical with like the injury conversation? Like I remember a couple of injuries in the 80s and the 90s that literally ended players' careers, or at least the career that they would have had. One of them that comes to mind is Antonio McDyess for me. And I often look at Antonio McDyess and say he's the perfect example of what we're going through with players now. And then I look at Amari Stoudemire as the second example. They both had knee injuries. Both were different knee injuries. Amari Stoudemire was the one who essentially suffered. So did Shawn Marion, but the worst microfracture injury you could possibly have, which took away all of his athleticism. Right. We've advanced so far in medical coverage, but I remember when Amari went down. I remember when Antonio McDyess went down. I remember these conversations happening, and I'm just wondering, in your memory, what do you remember happened from these conversations? Because there were some changes to the NBA injury policy. We got the listed injury report that was publicized and some other things. What do you remember, and what do you think we'll see in the future?
I mean, what I remember about injuries when I, used to, like I've always watched the game, but I just remember that, like players back in the day, if they, depending on the injury, they never looked the same. They didn't come back. You didn't have a KD, like after having, the injury he had, come back looking the way he did. Now, granted, he has to take time off during the season, each year before injury. But I think that, like he's going to be one of those low managers. He's guys, even though he loves to hoop, he's going to be a low management, one of those paid players, like he's 34 now. You're going to have to give him some low management when you can so he doesn't injure himself. But I just remember, the one thing I remember is that when players got injured, when they came back, like if it was a serious injury, they didn't look the same. And I'm looking at one player I am looking at to see what he looks like and if he can kind of get his form back is Lonzo Ball. Like his injury sounds really serious. And I remember hearing about his knee. I think it's his knee or his ankle. Um, Before he even there was a concern about it before he even got into the league. I remember hearing about it. So his injury, I'm curious to how that. He just had surgery to see how that. How he looks moving forward. But back in the day, if you had a serious injury, you had to adapt your game, and you weren't the same player. That's what I remember from back then. I didn't really pay attention to injuries back in the day too much. I really didn't. So now they resonate more. But I just remember players that got injured. They didn't look the same when they came back, and they had to adapt their game. Like think about Grant Hill, his career. Like what?
Jimmy
Who could Grant Hill could have been? Like if he didn't have his injuries. Like he was on the court. He was going to be something special, and he got injured, and it just totally derailed him. He's a great example of the advancement of medicine and what like if he would have had the medicine, like the surgeries that these players today have, he could have still made that impact, but he didn't quite hit where he could have gone because of injuries. I think today's players are blessed with the surgeries, but I'm looking to see if Lonzo Ball is going to fall in within those players that is he going to be able to come back and make an impact, or is he
It's
just done?
it's a,
That's what I'm curious.
I mean, I remember Brad Daugherty, right? Greg Oden with microfracture surgery.
Yeah, Greg Oden is a good one. Yeah.
There's another one, Matt Harpring. I'm a Georgia Tech fan, so I Matt
Bill Walton.
Yeah, Bill Walton was a phenomenal player, and he was actually he was having a career year at like 16 points, almost 9 boards, 3 assists, and then he ended up having like a calf injury. Came back, and then he ended up retiring in like 3 or 4 years after being nothing but a bench player because he lost all of his athleticism. Dewan Wagner is another one. He had to retire due to colitis, something that I actually have to deal with from time to time. That's the inflammation of your colon. Like these things are real. So when it happens to players, I personally always err on the side of caution and on the side of treatment and time. Those are two things that never change in any doctor prognosis. You can guarantee you they say it'll take treatment and time.
And another player, Cheryl Miller. I will
Cheryl Miller.
She's a player I treasure that we never got to see in the W because of her injury. And if we would have had today's science, we would have been able to see her.
She would have been older, but look at what Cynthia Cooper did, and she was older in the W. So like Dawn Staley did an interview with they talked about she did an interview with Jamel Hill where she talked about how with Cheryl Miller she was considered an old lady at the time. Like she was older too, like Dawn, because she played but Cheryl Miller was considered up there. I mean, Cynthia Cooper was considered up there, and she still got 4 chips. I mean, she didn't do it alone. She had she had some goats with her. But it's just I will always wonder about Cheryl Miller.
And yes, Brandon Roy's another one. I'm seeing the names pile through. Penny Hardaway, 30 in dubs. Alan
Penny Hardaway. Yes, he's a good one too.
Here's one that we never talk about, right? We never talk about because he's overshadowed by Michael Jordan, and that's Sam Bowie. People don't remember that he got injured. Like, we don't know. Would he have been better than Jordan? No, we understand.
No, but he could have been a solid for he could have been what Portland needed. That piece that Portland needed to compete. When people say Sam Bowie, I hate to say that a player was a bust if it was an injury situation. Like they knew his injury, like he was kind of injury prone. But he was he was a solid, he was a good pick outside of the injuries. And like the same with Greg Oden, he was injured. Like he got injured. We don't know. Like it's not like Kwame Brown, right? It's not like some of these other busts that happened. If you're injured, I don't think you should go on the bus list.
Yeah, I agree. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give Viral Nico a chance to come on up. He wanted to come up, he did, and then he went back down. So if you want to come up, Viral, now's the time. And in fact, if anybody else down below wants to come up, now's the time because we're getting ready to head on out of here. As we wait for anybody to raise the hand, we're going to go ahead and go to Danny D. Danny D, final take.
Yeah, y'all brought up some great names of people who were injured that we thought could have had a better career. I've always thought that, every time about LeBron and his greatness, that was Grant Hill for me because I was in Detroit during those times, and watched him play on that bad ankle in the oh God playoffs. Cheryl Ford, Lord, she was better than her daddy. I'm sorry, people who like Karl Malone, but she was better than her daddy and won a chip. And she had those knee injuries, and you just never saw her again. But all I gotta say is I'm looking forward to this NBA season. Rocks. Shh. I'm looking. Shut up, girl. I'm looking forward to the NBA season. She don't listen to me, and I'm just glad to have us back. I gotta get up again tonight to watch these U.S. women play China. It's gonna be a good game. I'm just gonna say that girl, what's her name? I don't pronounce her name wrong. Hanzu, play for Liberty. Malika could probably correct me with the name. Lauren Jackson met her today, and she found out what blocking feels like. But other than that, great show, Chris. I wasn't sure I was gonna make this show. I'm up now. I might crash later. We'll see.
All right, drink water because that's what you're supposed to do. Verl, appreciate you coming back up, man. Share what you were going to share earlier.
Good morning, Chris. Oh, there's 2 names that I wanted to add to the injury list. I wanted to add would be Sean Livingston and Ralph Sampson, former member of the Twin Towers. Like those are the biggest what ifs for me.
Yeah, I love Sean Livingston coming out of college. We won't know. I think though, I don't think it would have been league altering. Ralph Sampson could have been league altering, to be honest, had he stayed healthy. There's a couple others too before our time. If you ever want to go back in history of the NBA, that had they stayed healthy, the league might have been different. One of them is Pete Maravich. Had he stayed healthy, we would be probably looking at a NBA that was probably 10 years ahead of what we would normally know. And the other one is Maurice Stokes. And a lot of people don't remember Maurice Stokes because he only played like 2.5 years. But he was a walking double-double and literally would have averaged probably 17, 18 rebounds per game for his entire career. And he probably, and this is not just me saying this, other players from the past have said this. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has spoken of him. Hakeem Olajuwon has spoken of him. He only played 3 because he fell and collapsed, and they found out later that he had post-traumatic encephalopathy, the swelling of the brain, which, boom, ended his career. Because at that point, it could have been deadly. He could have just peeled over on the court at any time. And there's others, unfortunate, that aren't injuries that fall to like medical illness, such as my favorite player growing up, Reggie Lewis, right? That all being said, it's important to understand that they are creating a product. The best way to support them is to help support them being a human, and never forget that, so we can continue to humanize these athletes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I'm 23 over. For the rest that have the hands up, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get to you. I do hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the good weather as you can, because if you look to the south of us, there are those who are going through the worst. So if you have some time, if you are able to help in any way, I always suggest, once more time, search for the local Red Cross, not the national. They still help, but if you really want to make an impact, the local Red Cross, if you donate to them, it goes directly to where you're donating. All right. Appreciate everybody who came up and shared. Hopefully you are as excited as I am for year 2 of Hoop Spaces, and more importantly, the return of NBA basketball. Peace out, everybody. See you Monday morning. All right, this show is brought to you by slamgoods.com. It's the marketplace for Slam Magazine, which, moved online because that's where our world is. And if you have time and you want to go down history, they got so many things. They have the Rewind series that you can pick up old prints of magazines, get the cover, frame it. It's art. Hoodie season is here. But hey, if you need some workout gear, they got some shorts on sale too. If you hoop, head over there, slamgoods.com. Use promo Hoop Spaces to save 15% off your entire purchase. And as always, check us out on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment. Hoop Spaces. You'll see the videos up there. Usually 24 hours after. Catch up on your show. Peace out, everybody. I'm gonna go eat a BLT, the greatest sandwich that ever was made.